I recently returned from a trip to Hawaii. 10 wonderful days in this absolutely beautiful place. And I have to tell you, it wasn't cheap. Going somewhere on vacation is always a luxury purchase, and this trip to Hawaii was no exception. In fact, it was one of the most expensive vacations I've ever taken. But I think it was worth it because it's a bucket list destination for me and my family. And by taking this trip, we made lifelong memories and minimized future regret. More on that in a minute. But I was able to travel to Hawaii and stay 9 nights split across 2 different islands, including a 4-night stay at this beautiful resort in Maui. But I did it frugally, and I'm going to tell you how I pulled off this trip for less. I'll tell you about several ways that I was frugal, but I hope not cheap. Because I want to make it clear that I didn't do this trip for as little as possible. This isn't about completely cheaping out. There were some decisions we made in the name of luxury and comfort. Not every decision was based on money alone. It was based on maximizing fulfillment efficiently. I definitely struck a balance here. You might call it frugal luxury or simply efficient spending. I want to give you some context here and my history with Hawaii because I have no history with Hawaii. This was my first time visiting, and one reason I was able to take this trip to Hawaii now is because I didn't go to Hawaii when I was younger. I didn't go to Hawaii after graduating high school. I didn't go after college. I didn't go in my 20s. I didn't go when I began dating my wife. I didn't go in my 30s. I didn't go for my honeymoon. I didn't go when I was 40, 41, 42, 43, or even 44 years old. But I did go when I was 45. And it's not that 45 is some magic number, but I'd held out long enough. I'm 45, nearly 46, and the time was now. In fact, I developed sort of a theme for this vacation. The future is now. There are many aspirations like this in life where it's easy to think, someday I'll get there, someday we'll take that trip. One of these years I'll have that experience. In the future, we'll do that. But sometimes you have to stop and realize, the future is now. When I was 25 or even 35 years old, 45 years old was the future. 45, that's fully middle age. It's damn near 50. So back then I might think, sure, when I'm that age, fully middle age, that's the time to go live it up in Hawaii. Surely I'll have more money and that's the time to loosen up the purse strings and spend on some great experiences like this trip to Hawaii. Or I might have thought that maybe when I retire, especially if I retire early, maybe that's the time to do a big trip like that. Until then, continue on in saving mode, and exciting but expensive adventures like this can wait until later. I'll get there someday in the future. At some point, we have to recognize that the future is now, and if we continue to put it off, we may never get there, or we'll be too old or in poor health, and by that time, we won't be able to do it physically. When I read the book Die With Zero by Bill Perkins, these sort of thoughts really crystallized for me. In that book, Perkins describes his way of thinking as a regret minimization algorithm. What do you want to do in life, and what's the right age, the right time to do these things? If we file it away to our big bucket list, well, that's like saying someday, and someday it will be too late. Certainly too late to get all those items crossed off the list, and maybe too late for any of them. In the case of my Hawaii trip, one could argue that the trip would have been even better in my 20s or 30s. I would have been able to be more adventurous, perhaps. Although I wouldn't have had my daughter to bring along, my family, and experience the islands with them. But 45 is a great age to go too. I'm in shape enough to do all the activities I wanted to do. I have enough money to travel with the comfort and luxuries that made the trip even more enjoyable. And like I said, I've got my family with me. And surely this was a much better time to take this trip than, 55 years old, 65 years old. How long should one wait? Sometimes the future is now.
I just saw many Hanu, like a handful of Hanu, with my Ohana. Mahalo.
We get one shot at this life. There's a time to save and there's a time to spend and make memories. And that's another insight from Die with Zero. This idea that when we make positive memories by doing something like taking a trip to a dream destination, those memories stay with us for the rest of our lives and continue to pay dividends long after the trip is done. When we're old, when we look back, we still have those memories. The photos, the videos, we can reminisce with the friends and family who shared those experiences with us, and those memories will continue to put a smile on our face when we think of them. They will continue to pay dividends. But there's always a balance. We have to meet our savings goals, of course. We have to save and secure our financial future, and I would argue that we should work to secure our financial freedom sooner rather than later. And we need to balance this with living life right now, and as Bill Perkins says, optimizing for fulfillment. But sometimes it's more fulfilling to have an adventure in Hawaii than to have another few $1,000s invested. It's not a perfect science. Achieving this balance is tricky, but I find that it makes sense to cut out spending that doesn't matter to you, that doesn't bring value or fulfillment. On the other hand, spending on your lasting fulfillment is almost always worth it. When I look back at my life, whether it's next week or when I'm on my deathbed, I'll look back and be so happy that I took this trip. Bill Perkins' book is called Die with Zero, but I wonder if the book title would also work if we added the word regrets at the end. Die with zero regrets. I would not trade back the memories and the experience for the money that I spent on this trip. But again, there's a balance. We don't have to leave our frugal ways behind completely when we go on vacation. So, as promised, here are some ways that I did Hawaii for less. Booking hotel stays with points. I stayed in Hawaii for 9 nights and paid for only 3 of them with cash. The other 6 nights were paid using Chase Ultimate Reward points, which I collected from sign-up bonuses and general everyday spending, and then transferred those over to Hyatt strategically to get free hotel nights. Another way credit cards helped out on this trip was access to airport lounges. So I was able to visit a Capital One lounge in the airport at the start of my trip, which was really nice. And even in Hawaii, there was a lounge that was offering some snacks and some free coffee. Not the greatest lounge in the world, but still free coffee, using, in this case, my Capital One Venture X card, which gave me access to both of those lounges. The next way I did Hawaii for less was mixed luxury. Not every night was full of luxury. Stayed at some really nice resorts, but also some middle-of-the-road Airbnbs, and one place in Waikiki that was really not all that great, just a place to rest your head, clean, just the basics. And that's okay because we spent most of the time out and about looking around, didn't need to pay up or use a lot of points on the highest end property. For rental cars, I saved money by using the site AutoSlash. You put in your dates, any memberships that you might have where you might be able to get a discount, send that off. AutoSlash shops around the rates for you, emails you back in a few minutes with the best rate they can find. And I found that it's almost always better than any rental car rate that I could find on my own. And another rental car tip is to try the manager's special. Now, in my experience, after renting many cars over the years, there's a couple of ways it can go. You get to the rental counter, your destination, and then they either give you a choice of cars or they're renting them out as fast as they come out of the car wash and they can barely keep up. It feels like no matter what you choose when you book your reservation, unless it's something very specific, you'll get the same vehicle as the person in front of you or behind you who maybe paid a little more for the full-size sedan or whatever option they chose when they booked their reservation. There's this illusion of choice at the reservation step online that I find doesn't really play out in reality when you go to pick up your car. So choose the less expensive option. Rental cars are basically a commodity product. That means they're all the same. All right, the next way I did Hawaii for less is to avoid the sit-down restaurants. You paid to visit a beautiful place, not a beautiful restaurant. In Hawaii, it was all about food trucks, food shacks, eating outside, bringing food to the beach. In Hawaii, every beach is public. Sometimes the parking can be a challenge, but there's always a way to just walk into the beach, plunk down with your food, and eat at some of the most beautiful beaches in the world. And if it needs to be a restaurant, find out where the locals eat. Find the less obvious, more authentic places. These places tend to be more memorable than the inside of some tourist-friendly dining room. The same applies for tourist traps. So, another way I did Hawaii for less was by avoiding tourist traps. Spend time doing and seeing the thing, the reason you're there, not in shops and artificial environments made just for tourists. Along those same lines, let's talk souvenirs. I think it's fine to pick up 1 or 2 souvenirs, but spend minimal time to pick them up. Keep it quick and to the point. Get right in there, find something that works, and get home. You're not going to regret picking out the wrong souvenir, but you might regret that you didn't have enough time to do that extra activity that you really wanted to do while you were at the destination. Also, when it comes to activities, I prioritize free activities. Hikes, beaches, waterfalls, snorkeling, sunsets. The road to Hana was absolutely epic. It was like a week's worth of adventure packed into one long day, and it was all free aside from the cost of renting the car and the fuel. Another way I did Hawaii for less and would suggest for any trip that you do is to use the local grocery store whenever possible. Now, if the place you're staying has a full-blown kitchen in it, then awesome, you're off to the races. You can buy, eggs and basic groceries like that you might make at home, and you can make them right there at your vacation, especially for breakfast is a great way to save money, or a quick lunch or something like that. And that way you have more money to do the truly memorable activities at your destination, and you're paying less at restaurants, and you're spending less time at restaurants as well if you can just whip up a quick meal before you head out the door. But even if you don't have a kitchen where you're staying, almost everywhere I've ever stayed is going to have a little refrigerator, so you can pick up food that doesn't need to be hot, keep it in your refrigerator, certainly drinks and things like that, and you have it on hand, and that can save you a ton of money over the course of your vacation by having food on hand when you're hungry instead of running out to a restaurant. And to take this even one step further, another way I saved money in Hawaii was by bringing food from home. That's right, I packed food from my home that I bought at home in my suitcase. It flew with me all the way to Hawaii, and I ate that food while I was in Hawaii. Not exclusively, but sometimes. And one of the things that I ate while I was there was canned food, like canned sardines. This is really nutritious, convenient. You just need a fork or a spoon or something, rip open the top. You've got a really nutritious snack right there. Canned sardines, first meal of the day. I enjoyed these on the road to Hana. I enjoyed these by the pool. Whenever I was hungry for a snack, sardines were right there. Didn't have to worry about them staying cold or anything like that. They were ready to eat. Aside from sardines, I also brought beef sticks and other healthy snacks like that along. I could just throw in the bag, take them with me, and avoid an expensive restaurant meal just because I was hungry and all I needed was just a quick snack. So yes, that's me eating sardines poolside at this very nice resort in Maui. And if you have other ideas and ways that you stay frugal when you're on vacation, let us know down in the comments. Thanks for watching.